All right, so we got a bye week reset. Time to recharge those batteries, time to get healthy, and time to reset the conversation about who this Tennessee football team is. That, your mailbag questions, all that here on a Tuesday, Locked On Vols.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Vols. It is your team every single day here on a Tuesday. Appreciate you for being here. I'm your host, Eric Kane. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Vols your first listen. Shout out every dayers. Today is your show. You ask questions, I do my best to answer, and we do that right here on Locked On Vols. Quickly, before we get into a dominated show of mailbag questions and one that sparks a segment, I love when a question sparks a segment. So off the top, shout out to Gibby in the Twitter sphere or the X sphere, whatever you want to call it, sparked a conversation. We're going to get into that question here in segment 1, then answer your questions in segments 2 and 3. James Pierce named SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week. The official stats have him at 2 sacks and 1 quarterback hurry. Okay. Pro Football Focus has him at 3 sacks and 9 quarterback hurries. In fact, look what Pro Football Focus tweeted out over the weekend. If you're watching on YouTube right now, you can see it. James Pierce Jr., 9 QB pressures versus South Carolina, the most of any player in Week 5. Not a bad week whatsoever. James Pierce joining Tyler Barron as the second Tennessee football player to receive SEC honors so far this week, I believe, or this year. And, of course, that was Defensive Lineman of the Week as well. Actually, Joe Milton was SEC Offensive Player of the Week in Week 1. So, joining Tyler Barron is picking up SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week honors so far this year for the University of Tennessee. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. Your mailbag questions in segments 2 and 3. But Gibby chimes in and says, I know you did a segment in the offseason of your top 5 players, but who do you think they are through 5 games? Great question. I'm not going to do offense and defense top 5 because, honestly, I know you said through 5 games, but I don't know. There hasn't been much of a sample size because you play 2 teams with a pulse. So I'm going to do team-wide, and we're going to start that off here right now. This is up for debate. This is objective. Your 5 is going to be different from my 5, and let me know what your 5 is, offense, defense, special teams, because I can go ahead and tell you right now, everybody listening and watching, you're not going to agree with my 1 through 5 all the way through. It's just not going to happen. But with that being said, here is my top 5. Starting at number 5, working our way down to number 1. Number 5 is Jabari Small. Everybody's talking about Jalen Wright. Everybody's talking about Dylan Sampson. And honestly, I'm going to do Jabari Small / Dylan Sampson because I'm going to cheat. It's my podcast. I can do whatever I want. Everybody's talking about Jalen Wright, and me included, about how he's, RB1, taking a step, and all that is deserved. But all Dylan Sampson's done is second the SEC in rushing touchdowns. All Jabari Small has done is just every time he runs the football, every game he's run the football so far, he's done a good job averaging over 5 yards a carry. Those 2 guys have done really well. All 3 of these guys rank in like the top 15 in terms of rushing yards in the Southeastern Conference right now. And Dylan Sampson, or Jalen Wright, is really up there. So 2/3 of the 3-headed monster is going to come in at number 5, and obviously Jalen Wright's going to be up there in my top 5 towards the top. But it's my top 5. I can do whatever I want, and Jabari Small / Dylan Sampson comes in there at number 5. At number 4, it's going to be Tyler Barron. Tyler Barron has been really good. It's a contract year for Tyler Barron. Let's make no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's a contract year for Tyler Barron. And you see it in the NFL all the time. You see it in college, and I'm not trying to say that they're not trying or they're not giving effort or anything the previous couple of years in college. I'm not saying that at all, but this is pretty much it. It's time to go. If you're wanting to be a high draft pick and make the most money you possibly can, now's the time. You don't want to use that COVID year and have another year of tread on the tires. You want to go get it now. And that's what Tyler Barron's doing. He's doing really, really well. He's second on the team behind James Pierce with 4 sacks. That's top 5 or 6 in the SEC, I believe, right now. Doing a hell of a job. He's playing well from the outside in. Him being on the inside and Rabbit's package has been so critical because he'll burst inside and you'll have Pierce and Harrison or Josephs or whoever on the outside going upfield, forcing that quarterback to step up, and there's Tyler Barron to clean it up, right? I mean, that's the point of Rabbit's package. Tyler Barron is having a great season so far. So number 5, Jabari Small / Dylan Sampson. Number 4 is Tyler Barron. Number 3, you can't mention Tyler Barron without James Pierce. The SEC reigning defensive lineman of the week, leading the team with 5 sacks, second in the SEC, only to Alabama's Dallas Turner with 6 sacks so far to lead the SEC. He is so good. And you knew that he was good last year. You had to come along. You had to know the offense, you had to know the defense. You had to know the scheme. You had to buy in and all that type of stuff. The talent has never been an issue. Plus, he's put on some weight over the offseason, and he's at 6'5", about 245 right now. He looks good and still can add weight to that frame, but he is big. He is explosive. He is long. He just beats offensive tackles with speed off the edge, and then he can dip underneath, and he's athletic enough to dip underneath and then still to not lose contain. He's a weapon. He is a problem for opposing offensive tackles. Those poor freshmen for South Carolina, goodness gracious, they had no answer for him. He was an animal, and so James Pierce comes in at number 3. So number 5, Jabari Small. Number 4, Tyler Barron. Number 3 is James Pierce. Number 2 is Jalen Wright. I mean, I don't have the official stat sheet in front of me, but Jalen Wright averaged over 9 yards a carry the first 2 weeks of the season. This past week, he averaged over 7 yards per carry. The dude is good. His vision, really good. Knows where the crease is, know where the cutback lanes are. He's gotten so much better from his freshman season on in terms of running between the tackles and not being afraid to run between those tackles. He's done a really, really nice job. Plus, he looks like a Southeastern Conference running back. His dad listens to the podcast, I believe. So shout out to Jalen Wright's dad. Met him a couple of weeks ago, and that's awesome to hear. I was like, hey, I'm a big fan of your son. He's like, oh, I know. But Jalen Wright's been really, really good, and he was really good the other day. That 42-yarder, those double team combo blocks from Cooper Mays and Ollie Lane, and then Gerald Mincy and Javonte Spraggins, and just found that crease and went. Really got Tennessee up and going. So Jalen Wright comes in at number 2. Number 5, Jabari Small. Number 4, Tyler Barron. Number 3, James Pierce. Number 2, Jalen Wright. And number 1, right now it's Squirrel White. Fight me on that. No, don't fight me on that, but contradict me on that. Tell me how it's not Squirrel White. So much we're talking about right now about how Joe Milton can't throw it down the field, or they don't trust Joe Milton, or maybe it's a little bit with the offensive line, or whatever the case may be. All right? I kind of went into that on yesterday's show, and we'll continue to talk about that as the week goes on. But Squirrel White has been the go-to guy, okay? He leads the team in targets, I would assume. I should have had the stat sheet in front of me. I apologize. I would assume that he leads the team in receptions. Working that quick screen game, trying to be creative and find ways to get the football to him down the field. Often can't throw it to him over the middle because he's kind of a smaller guy, but they do those wheel routes, and they figure out ways to try to get the ball to him down the field, just like they did the other night when he made that heck of a catch somehow, down the far sideline. Squirrel White has been incredible for Tennessee, when myself included, okay, all the talk this offseason was Dante Thornton. It's been Squirrel White. You knew Squirrel White was going to play. Don't get me wrong. You knew he was going to be a part of this offense. But I didn't know 5 games in he was going to be number 1 on my charts. Shout out Squirrel White. He's done a heck of a job. So shout out to Gibby. Gibby, that was his question, saying, I know you did this over the offseason, but kind of what are your top 5 through 5 games? Really, I love questions that spark conversation. So really, really good stuff there. Hey, when we come back, we're going to get into more of y'all's good questions. Twitter Tuesday right here on your Mailbag edition of the show, Locked On Balls. Tell you about our friends Gametime. You shouldn't have to worry about when you're going to buy tickets to your next event. Gametime, it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all your sports, music, comedy, theater events, all in your area. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seats, the best price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets today. Easy to find your tickets and buy your tickets for every kind of event in your area. You can see your seats. Plus, Gametime's got your back. They have a price guarantee for event cancellation protection, also job loss protection for you as well. Gametime has got the deals on the tickets right up to the start of the event, even an hour after the event start. It's the place to find last-minute seats, because if you're like me, you are a procrastinator. and you don't prioritize correctly sometimes. And Gametime has got my back, and they can have your back as well today. Plus, if you download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONCollege, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDON, college, COLLEGE. Yeah, is that how you spell that? Locked On College for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Want to welcome you back here to this Tuesday edition of Locked On Vols. We will have Josh Ward on for a little Ward Wednesday action coming up tomorrow. Boogie Bentley on Thursday of this week. And we'll continue to work in some more guests. We'll look at Pro Football Focus stats that matter from the South Carolina game on Wednesday as well. But today it's about answering your questions right here on the show. We're going to start on the YouTube channel. This is from Noah. Hypothetical question for you. Let's say Georgia keeps getting by with close wins all year to teams they should be blowing out, and Tennessee manages to win out and beat Georgia in Knoxville, knocking Georgia out of the conference title game. Do you think Georgia still makes the playoffs with that resume? It's a good question. That's a lot of hypotheticals, obviously, because saying Tennessee's going to win out its next 5 games, it's going to be a challenge. I'm not saying it can't happen, but it's going to be a challenge for sure. So that's one hypothetical. Georgia just getting by and looking kind of crappy doing that, but still win upon win upon win upon win. But losing to Tennessee in Neyland Stadium against a team in this scenario, Tennessee's not losing another game, right? Potentially, yeah, even though you're not in Atlanta. We've seen it a couple different times. The team that misses out on Atlanta still gets to go to the college football playoff in this 4-team system. We've seen it a couple times here. I believe a couple times, at least once at minimum. But we've seen it. We've also seen 2 undefeated teams with the loser still going. Anyway, I don't know, man. Part of me wants to say no because I believe style points matter. I truly do. Shouldn't matter. Shouldn't. But I believe style points matter in the eyes of the committee. I truly believe that. So I want to say no. But also the fact that you're back-to-back national champions and you're Georgia, probably going to get the benefit of the doubt like Alabama gets in years past. If I was on the committee, I would keep them out. Just sitting here right here. But, of course, we got to see how it plays out. Is Brock Bowers in the Heisman conversation? Is anybody, really kind of making some noise? We know that Carson Beck's not, but has Carson Beck gotten a whole lot better? We'll see. I would say no, but I bet you they get the benefit of the doubt. No, I appreciate the question. Let's go to Jonathan. With the loss of Brew, how far down the bench does Tennessee need to look for the next potential Jalen Hyatt / Cedric Tillman-esque receiver talent? Not one name sticks out as a super exciting prospect to me currently from what we've seen on the field. Well, to be fair, it took Cedric Tillman 4 years to become Cedric Tillman. It took Jalen Hyatt until his junior year to be the Biletnikoff guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had promise as a freshman, but he got benched as a sophomore. So who are you or who am I to say, well, I've seen a little of Caleb Webb. I've seen a little of Chaz Nimrod. I've seen a little of Squirrel White. I don't think that they're going to be that type of player. I just think it's kind of too early because every situation's kind of different. Now, the loss of Brew certainly is a huge one. Dante Thornton's got to have to come back and get healthy. You're going to have to rely on Caleb Webb and Chaz Nimrod a lot. Like, you're truly going to have to play some more receivers because I don't think this is a scenario where Ramel Keaton steps up and it's just, all right, you're out, you're in, and go. I think Tennessee's going to have to work to kind of move some pieces and play a couple different guys. So, in terms of being Jalen Hyatt, Cedric Tillman-esque in terms of talents, I mean, Squirrel would be closest to that for sure, in my opinion. Ramel Keaton can still, make some plays. But I don't think we know the answer to that right now. Let's go to Glock Vols. Do you think our O-line builds off the performance on Saturday? If so, do you think it could be somewhat close to what it was last year? You hope that it builds off what it did on Saturday for sure because they look good. That unit looked good. Allowed 1 sack. I thought Milton could have got rid of the ball in that scenario as well. Paved the way for over 200 yards rushing, 238 yards, I believe. Did a really good job. Now, do I think it's ever going to return to what it was last year? No. And again, I don't think last year was like the best I've ever seen, but I mean, it was elite. It was. I mean, you had Darnell Wright. You had Jerome Carvin. You had a healthy Cooper Mays. I mean, you were farther along than where you are right now. So can this group ever get close to that? I don't think this group will ever be as good as that group was on its worst day last year. That's just my opinion. But can this group still improve and get better and be solid? Oh, absolutely. You give a performance like you did on Saturday night every week, hey, that's good stuff. That's really, really good stuff. So hopefully, you know that this offensive line will continue to improve. Number 2, do you think Dante Thornton will be able to take Brew's role, or do you think they go with Caleb and Chaz? I think it's going to be a combination. Yeah, I do. You know, I talked all offseason long why I like Dante Thornton so much is because he's got versatility to his game. He can play inside. He can play outside. Time to put that versatility to use. You know, get him healthy these next 2 weeks with that hamstring, and let him play a little slot, but let him bump outside. Use his long, explosive nature, just like Javonte Payton was of this offense a couple years ago. So I think it's going to be a combination. I truly do. I think they're going to play Caleb Webb a lot. I think they like Caleb Webb, and you know, Chaz Nimrod had that drop on 3rd down. It was bad, but I don't think you give up on the kid just because of that one. And then number 3, percentage likely to make it to the SEC championship. I don't know. I mean, you already lost to Florida, but the SEC's kind of down this year. You know, what happens to Georgia the rest of the way? What happens to Kentucky the rest of the way? Tennessee's got to play both of those teams. What happens to Tennessee the rest of the way? I mean, you still control somewhat of your own destiny because I don't believe Florida is good. And now, you know, Florida's sitting in with a 1-1 record, holds the tiebreaker over Tennessee. I think Florida's going to have another L on that schedule at some point in time. Percentage chance, I don't know. I would say less than 50, but SEC's kind of down this year. So I think that the ceiling's still the same for this team and everything's still in front of you, but you got to handle business. So again, percentage, I don't know. I'll give you, without putting much thought in this, I'll give you 25%. I don't know. I'm really bad at numbers and gauges and 1 through 10s. I'm really bad at that. Let's go to Hunter here. I think Tennessee's offense is at its best with Coop at center and Mincy at right tackle. Is it just me, or is that the best it's looked all year from a tempo perspective? Go Vols. Yeah, for sure. In the first half, love the tempo. They slowed it down in the second half, and I mean, I get it. 31-10, 31-17. You got a 2-3 score lead. You want to take time off. I understand it, but I mean, come on. Keep going. And maybe they were doing some of that to give Cooper Mays a break. Remember, Cooper Mays didn't practice really until the week before. Cooper Mays hadn't played in a game or a football scrimmage since spring. Dude was going through it. Gutsy effort. Job well done to Cooper Mays. Maybe they were slowing it down just so he could have a little break, if you will. But, I mean, I wish Tennessee would continue to go faster because, again, I continue to say, if you're not tempo Tennessee, what are you? You know, prior to last game, you were a bad offensive line with a game manager at quarterback. Now you're, you know, after last game, you're an okay offensive line and still with a game manager. Like, you need that edge. You know what I'm saying? So I liked what they did in the first half. I do. I wish they would have kept doing it in the second half. Cooper Mays at center, absolutely, and I'm with you. Gerald Mincy should be your right tackle. I'll stand by this. Andre Carrick and J.J. Crawford, when healthy, those two guys will still play. But I think your best 5 is what you had out there against South Carolina. I truly, truly do believe that. Let's go to Sailor Vol. How much chemistry have you seen between Joe Milton and Caleb Webb? He is going to be a huge problem, or he's going to be huge for this next stretch. Absolutely, he's going to be huge. And those guys have thrown to one another. You know, a lot of people kind of made a big deal about Joe Milton or Ramel Keaton, you know, last year because they had thrown and been with the second team and Squirrel as well. They had been the second group and thrown a lot in practice. Truth of the matter is, I mean, Joe throws to all these receivers, even when Hendon was here. Nico's throwing to all these receivers. Gaston Moore's throwing to a lot of these receivers. Now, you know, team reps are a little bit different, and I hear you, but I do think they have chemistry. I do think that those receivers know how to go about catching a Joe Milton ball, or they should at least. But I'm with you. Caleb Webb is going to have to step up. All those guys are going to have to step up, and I think that they are seeing each other pretty well right now, Milton and Caleb Webb. Last one here for this segment, then we'll get some more of your questions in segment 3. Stay on that wide receiver, assuming the injury wasn't major this week. Is this now the time for Thornton to break out after Brew's injury, or do you expect Nimrod or Webb to step up more? Again, a lot of wide receiver questions. Yeah, Thornton has got to step up here. I don't want to say now or never, but it's like, all right, man, it's been 5 games. You've been very mediocre. You've struggled. Point blank, you struggled at times. You can see the flashes. You can see the ability and all that. Where is it that everybody was talking about? Let me see it. And now you're going to have more opportunities because a team leader and best all-around wide receiver, you know, and Brew McCoy, he's out. and he's not coming back this season. So, step up, see the need, step up, fill that void. Dante Thornton. Again, combination of the guys, but Dante Thornton could step up and take this and run. He truly could. He truly, truly could, and we will see what happens. We'll have more questions, not just wide receiver questions. I promise you that. That is coming up next right here on Locked On Vols as the mailbag edition of the show continues. Do want to tell you guys about our friends over at Bird Dogs. Bird Dogs stretch khaki shorts designed to fit slimmer through the thigh and truly give you that sculpted look, if you know what I'm talking about. Those shorts do the exact same thing that Lululemon does, but the fit is way better. Why? Well, the fit's way better because you don't have that restricting cotton or anything like that. Bird Dogs fixed that issue by inventing a cloud knit fabric that looks just like khaki, but it stretches to give you a slimmer fit without having to sacrifice movement for your everyday life. Bird Dogs also uses an anti-stink sweat wicking fabric that keeps you cool and dry all day long. Bird Dogs are functional for any occasion. You can go to dates. You can go out on a date with them. Go get drinks with the boys with them. Go to church with them. Go to a workout, lounging. Go to a meeting wearing your Bird Dog slacks or shorts, whatever the case may be. All right. So go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. Enter that promo code LockedOnCollege at checkout for a free Bird Dogs water bottle with your order. That's birddogs.com/lockedoncollege for a free water bottle at checkout. You don't want to take your Bird Dogs off? We promise you that. All right, guys and gals, we got a final segment left here. This mailbag edition of the show, Locked On Vols, every Tuesdays when you everydayers get to literally just take it over. All right, let's get back into your questions. We'll go to clearly Pate statement material, something. With the new clock rules trimming down the amount of possessions Tennessee gets, does it feel like coach is working towards a more complementary style of football? What do you mean by that? Because in my opinion, the way I see it, Tennessee's been very complimentary. Now, if we're talking offense, run to pass, Tennessee starts running the football. Tennessee wants to run the football. Always has. All 3 seasons Josh Heupel's been here. Tennessee's averaged over 200 yards a game since Josh Heupel's been head coach here. Tennessee led the nation in rushing touchdowns. And we know about the explosive pass plays from a season ago. So in that regard, Tennessee has always been complimentary and, run, set up the pass, run, set up the pass, take shots downfield. So I've always seen it complimentary in that regard. Now, if you're talking offense to defense, you're talking about, running the football to give your defense a little bit of break. I don't think so. I think offense is doing its thing and trying to get in the end zone. And then if you get into the end zone and you take too less of a time, it brings us to our next question here from Blue Light K through 9. How and why are players getting injured on extra points? A, true injury. B, planned. Thank you and go Vols. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because I don't want to get on anybody's crap list, but the answer to your question is B, and it is absolutely not serious injury, and I'll leave it at that. Just go watch the football games for 3 years and you see a theme there, if you know what I'm saying. Blue Light K9, I appreciate you chiming in, as well as Phil was blah. Appreciate the questions here. All you guys really, really do appreciate the questions. We'll go on now to the Locked On Vols channel. I've saved a couple here. Let's go. Actually, I have a couple in the DMs that I didn't get to. Let's go to Bruce on the Loose here. Now that you have a week off, what are the most important 3 things that you are working on in the off week? Yeah, number 1, healthy. And you can't really work on that, but you got to get healthy. Number 2 for me is, you got to take some shots down the field. And Tennessee's taking some shots, and, for whatever reason it is, wide receivers, is it Joe Milton? Whatever the case is, it's been close, and you guys like to remind me, close doesn't count unless you're, playing grenades or horseshoes, right? You need to connect on some more of those. Tennessee needs to fix the down the field passing. This is not Bazooka Joe, Overthrow Joe, yada, yada, yada. There's been some really, really close times where it's just not quite there. Got to fix those, because in these next 5 games, you are going to have to connect on some of those. You are going to have to connect on some of those to win football games, because your defense is not going to be as great as it was every single game like it was against South Carolina. There will be a game a la Florida where you're going to have trouble running the football. And, Tennessee's a great running football team, but sometimes it won't be there. That's life in the SEC, and you've got to create some spark plays for yourself. So number 2, I would say is, hey, fixing that down the field passing that just felt, and again, as fans and media members covering this team, spoiled. Okay, it felt automatic last year. It felt automatic. Tillman, Hyatt, Keaton, Squirrel. I mean, it truly, and Brew truly felt automatic last year, and we take that for granted. I think we really, really do. And then number 3, tackling, freaking tackling, tackle. 4 straight games. 4 straight games, if I'm looking at this correctly, according to Pro Football Focus. Tennessee, again, had 10-plus missed tackles, coming in with 11 missed tackles. Thought it was worse in the first half the other night. Thought it was better as the game went on. There was a lot of things that I liked, and we'll get into more about this with Pro Football Stats that matter, Pro Football Focus stats that matter on tomorrow's show. But Tennessee, again, missed too many tackles. Number 1, get healthy. Again, can't really work on that. Number 2, down the field passing. Number 3, tackle. Too many missed tackles. Too many flipping missed tackles. Bruce, as always, my man, I appreciate you chiming in. Let's go back to my Twitter account, go to the messages. Let's go to Braden here. Braden says, do you think the tempo will pick up at any point this season on offense? Will we see more action from Ethan Davis on offense? Yeah, the tempo's got to pick up, and I do think it's going to get better now that you do have Cooper Mays back. He's continuing to work himself in there, get in shape, and feel more like himself. I think that'll help. Getting that first down is critical for tempo, and because Tennessee is such a good running team, I think Tennessee, will continue to be a good running team this year, and of course that's going to help with tempo. So my question is, can you just sustain it through the game? Because the last 2 weeks we've seen Tennessee in the first half have really good tempo, and then they've let off the gas in the second half. I don't like letting off the gas. So to answer your question, I do think that Tennessee will see that tempo. The second part of your question, any action from Ethan Davis on offense? We'll see. Ethan Davis kind of had an ankle deal, I believe, and he was banged up. I don't think he made the trip to Florida, and he was in street clothes for the UTSA game, but he did dress out, to my knowledge, and I think he's working himself back. Get him healthy over this off week and all that. That'll be big. But yeah, McCallan Castles, I mean, he's playing a lot, and he's done some good things, but boy, he's done some head-scratching things as well. He's dropped some passes. Not just Saturday, but he's dropped some passes this season. He's had some silly penalties. A lot of times they're drive killers. And so McCallan Castle's got to clean it up. He's really got to clean it up, in my opinion. I would love to see Ethan Davis work himself into the fold, but since Heupel's been here on Rocky Top, Tennessee has never played 3 tight ends. We'll see what happens. McCallan Castle's got to clean some things up. He's got to clean some things up, and you want Ethan Davis to continue progressing because I think Ethan Davis is good. We will go to Kolb's. Hey, man, Twitter Tuesday question. What do we know about Jordan Thomas? Feels like I haven't heard his name much, but he damn near pulled off the safety late in the third quarter. Beautifully timed tackle. Yeah, dude, Jordan Thomas, I think, is going to be a stud. I do. He's been slowed down. So last year as a true freshman, he was healthy, played special teams, and you want to find somebody that's going to be a stud, find a freshman that is just going balls to the wall like crazy on special teams. He was that guy last year. He and Caleb Perry both. He got beat up a little bit in spring. Plus, they were moving him from safety to star, kind of cross-training him. I think that hurt his development a little bit. And then so because of his injury in spring, it kept him a little bit out of it kept him out a little bit for fall camp. And so I just think he's kind of been delayed a little bit, but he's got good tools. I think he's smart. He's an aggressive player. And yeah, that was a really, really nice play. Really, really nice play near safety there in the third quarter. Love what I saw there from Jordan Thomas. He's a guy I want to see play more. Now, can he do it consistently? Can Ricky Gibson do it consistently? That's kind of the charge for these young defensive backs. There was one more question. I don't know where it went. Okay, here it is. Swaggy P. And we'll end on this. And I kind of spoke on it a little bit yesterday. And this is another one of those questions that's going to turn into a segment at some point in time this week or maybe next week. All right. Who are the Vols? Are they the team that we saw against South Carolina, or are they the team that we played at Florida? Played with at Florida. Can they find consistency? Yeah, who are the Vols? What do they do well? What did we think that they were going to do well that they did, and what did we miss about? So far right now, Dante Thornton's a miss, right? Everybody wanted to say that, me talking up Jackson Ross all offseason long, the punter. I understand it's a punter. And, coming at me in week 1, dude's been great. I'm not going to say he's never going to shank a punt again, but the dude has been great, and he's a weapon for you. To answer your question, again, I like to think that you're more of what you saw against South Carolina. Just for some reason, Tennessee just looks like utter, complete crap at Florida. I think that there's some limitations for sure. I think that if you can't run the football offensively, you're in trouble. I do believe that. I think the offensive line is only going to get better, and this is a group on offensive line-wise that's only allowed 5 sacks this season, but that doesn't tell all the story, and we know that. I think that as long as Cooper Mays is back and healthy, this offensive line is going to continue to get better and better. I just think the key is you've got to run the football. And like we saw against Florida, Tennessee couldn't run the football and the offense was in trouble. Defensively, just make some tackles. And Tennessee's defensive line couldn't get back in the backfield because Graham Mertz was getting rid of the ball so quickly. And in turn, Tim Banks didn't call as aggressive of a game plan because you had Graham Mertz getting rid of the football so quickly. But as long as that defensive line can disrupt, you don't have to have 6 sacks in a game. I think the defense overall is going to take some steps. So I think it's more towards South Carolina than against Florida because Tennessee was so bad against Florida. Will it be as good as it was against South Carolina for the rest of the year? No, I think it's somewhere in between, but I think it's more towards South Carolina. We'll talk more about this as the week goes on. Everydayers, thank you so much for tuning in, making Locked On Balls your first listen, your first watch on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. If you're watching on YouTube, pound that thumbs up, that like button. Let's get this video in front of more and more Tennessee fans. As always, thank you for being here, taking time out of your day, spending it with me here on Locked On Balls. It means more to me than you will ever know. I promise you that. We'll do it again tomorrow on a Wednesday. This is Locked On Balls.